Now, Vice President Georgieva, please. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Federica, for having us here. The European Union, all of us, we are very lucky to have you as High Representative and Vice President of the Commission. First and foremost, for the role you play to lift up our standing in the world, not only diplomatically and politically, but of course with the consequences for our competitiveness. So very important given that we now live in this ring of fire with the conflicts in the neighborhoods, both on south and on east. But I think we're also very lucky to have you from the perspective of the responsibilities I have in the Commission for our people and also for best use of our money. Of course, you made us very proud with the Iran deal. But what made me extra happy on the Iran deal was that the very first communication that came out of it was Federica recognizing the role of the staff, the role of the people who have made it possible, who have supported it. So thank you very, very much for that. I'm going to talk about three things. One, HR, what we do, what are the priorities, and of course, where we try to ease your lives. Two, budget. How does it look like? What are the milestones in the next about 2 years from budgetary terms? And three, very shortly in the end, why some of you would still see me over the next 6 months as a result of Ban Ki-moon appointing me a co-chair of a high-level group on humanitarian finance, which is very shortly in the end. First, our people. Let me say this. We are very fortunate to have incredibly competent people in the Commission and in the External Action Service. They are by far, in terms of consistency of quality, a benchmark globally, no question about it. But we are still not where we should be to make sure that the processes, procedures, and systems that empower our people to work are up to par with the 21st century, and that they are well harmonized across the different types, categories of staff, and of course, External Action Service and the Commission. We have, in 139 delegations across the world, we have both External Action Service staff and Commission staff. From the Commission, the lead services, of course, are DEFCO, as we can imagine, DEFCO, NEAR, and Trade. The bulk comes from there. But there are another 17 services that have presence in delegations. Commission staff is around 60% of all the staff in the EU delegations. And yet, we have managed over the couple of years of the creation of External Action Service to deviate from each other in terms of procedures, including appraisal of staff, that makes your life really complicated. And obviously, I'm very mindful for that. Federica and I have agreed that we would set up a task force, a group that would look through all that we have to deal with in terms of making sure that we put staff of different categories and from the two sides, the Commission and External Service, in the most harmonized possible way so we can actually bring down boundaries, although I know from visits in the field that boundaries there usually are not that significant. We also have a lot to do in terms of the sense of appreciation of our people across in the Commission, here in Brussels, and also in delegations and in representations. Our staff survey results, last staff survey, on one level was very good because it has shown enormously high motivation of staff. Over 2/3 of our people felt motivated to do what they do. And at the same time, on many issues, there has been a decline vis-a-vis previous years. And obviously, in this commission, we know that if we want high productivity, we also have to make sure that people feel that their concerns are reflected too. Just to give you some examples where the field staff is actually less happy than here in Brussels. Usually, by the way, it is always the other way around, but there are some areas. Perspective of career development, and in particular with regard to mobility. Only 35% of Commission staff in delegations feel that they are able to manage their career choices, and it is 45% for staff as a whole, for Commission staff as a whole. So the 10% gap. And by the way, I don't think 45 is a high enough number. Access to learning and development opportunities. 49% of Commission staff is feeling that they have this access in delegations versus 70% for the Commission as a whole. This is a big gap. Well-being and work-life balance. And here, the difference is 46 for staff in delegations versus 54 Commission as a whole. But I want to give you a number that actually makes me wake up often at night. And this is only 24% of Commission staff in delegations feel that the Commission cares about their well-being versus only 35% of the Commission as a whole. So what we do about it? There is a lot that I can talk about, but I just want to zero on 3 avenues for action that I hope would lead over time to improvements in basically morale and from there productivity. The first and most important one is for all staff, not staff, delegation staff in Commission. And it is our and I would say you would see it as kind of relentless focus over the years on what we call talent management. And talent management, the way we understand it, is very simple. Everybody has talent, everybody. Question is, do we put people in the right places? Do we have them in the right jobs? And do we make everything possible so they can deploy their skills and capabilities? And that is the simple slogan is right person in the right place at the right time. And we know that we have work to do there in terms of making sure that we are a networked organization, and especially with regard to mobility of staff. And of course, in delegations, this is particularly difficult. And I can tell you, I spent many hours with the staff representative of your people in the field on that issue. But most importantly, in my view, the most important change we would see over time from us in HR policy terms is our approach to management. You know, how many of you are actually coming from Commission? Raise your hand. How many are Commission people? Okay, thank you. You know that traditionally we have been much more tilted towards professional competence and delivery when we recruit managers and when we promote people in management. And much less have been focusing on, are they good managers? Are they supported to be good managers? In fact, in the appraisal report of managers, there is no attention being paid much to management. It is, do you deliver on program? Do you get things done? Very important as it is. But they have responsibility for people. So we are going to put a very strong emphasis on selecting people for first managerial jobs with assessment of what they're good at and where we can help them to be better. 2, on appraisal, including 360. We want to, over the next 2 years, to roll 360 over. And 3, on actually providing more support to managers to excel. And why is this important? Because actually it is managers who should be able to look into and be equipped to deal with things like mobility, career advice, support to our people, so we can see these numbers go up. The next component of this HR is, and I can see that in this audience we have still work to do. It is gender balance. We are
work to do in all the audiences.
in all audiences.
Apart from the Finnish.
I always use this analogy in the Commission in terms of women in management. We are like a vase for one flower. You know these one flower vases? They have very broad base, and then you go up and it gets narrow, and then it opens up a little bit more. Just to give you the numbers, before the last rotation, we had 5 women Director Generals. We had 4 women Deputy Director Generals, talk about pipeline. But when you go down, of course, women are a majority. We have more women than men. Today, we are at 28.3% for senior management and 31.5% for middle management in terms of women in the Commission. And our target, and President Juncker is extremely clear on that, our target is 40%. And of course, here is the moment to say thank you for appointing a gender advisor in the External Action Service. This is not to say, and I know that when I talk about it, sometimes there is a little bit of concern that men may say, oh, but what about us? Obviously, we want the best people in leadership jobs, and obviously we would have a very high standard. But it is also very obvious that if we want to perform well, we in Europe, we have to tap in the talent of all our people, men and women. And at the moment, we tap in the talent of men a little bit more when it comes down to top positions than we tap in the talent of women. So we have to rebalance that. My sense, so on the, and then the third aspect of our work is what we will do together to make sure that we, in very practical ways, gradually simplify administrative processes, and we harmonize what we do, harmonize without losing sight that these are, after all, 2 different services for a reason, but harmonize how we approach HR management. And I emphasize here the operative word is gradually. Obviously, we are in this situation, especially you, many of you, when we have so much pressure and the volume of work is so incredibly high that we have to be very careful not to get too much energy into fixing problems and then at the expense of delivering on the important work. President Juncker uses this analogy: we have to fly 30,000 feet above ground and at the same time fix the engine on our plane. It's a complicated thing, but we will do it. We will do it. And I would be very grateful to you for any recommendations you have, and also for feedback whether what we are doing actually works. Last on the HR side, the passport, the new laissez-passer. When I came to the Commission, and I actually think I put it in my bag because I always want to remind myself what we talk here about. When I got this, and I opened it, of course all of you know it, I thought, that cannot be serious. I mean, do people really take this at borders? That cannot be the...
It's empty, yeah?
Well, no, actually, I'm going to test it. I have my Russian visa here, so... No, but it does work. On a serious note, of course, this is a document that has served us. But we have to come to a point in which the European Union is, in everything we project, seen as a best-in-class standard. And obviously, when we cross borders, not too far, we will be, when our people cross borders with our laissez-passer, it would be best-in-class standard with all the biometrics and the rest. It's going to be a complicated operation. Actually, David O'Sullivan is here. It was in his, in the secured room of his office when I signed the go-ahead on the laissez-passer. It would be a complicated operation. And I'm bringing it up because I know there will be noise, because high standard also means that the requirements for issuing are going to be quite high. And we will have to figure out how to do it fairly quickly. So please, please, please help us to make it work. When it doesn't work, please, 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 rather than saying these idiots in Brussels, they make it not work, just figure out what is the solution so it works. Budget. I have been privileged to be Commissioner for Humanitarian Aid. I always tell people, this is the best job I have had in my life. It actually made me a better person, because what I have seen is this incredible increase of devastation around the world, crushing lives of innocent people whose only fault is they were born where they were born. But devastated by conflicts, devastated by natural disasters. And I know that the expectations, the demands for external action, the demands on us, the expectations on us, the hopes people pin on us are very high. So I take the advocacy for budget for Heading 4 very seriously. We put forward a proposal for 2016 that has 28.5% increase for Heading 4. What did our member states do when they got this proposal? What is their sort of receiving end reaction? Any guesses here? What did they do? Of course, and they say, but I mean, Kristalina, what are you complaining? We are cutting you, but you're still much above 2015 in this category, so we should be okay. I actually hope that we will have a very sober recognition among member states at the next stage, that given what is happening, given the enormity of the refugee pressure on Europe, that obviously we have to be much more conscious on the need for Heading 4. And of course I count very much on Federica and on each and every one of you for basically lobbying to make sure that we have the resources. Part of this increase is because the euro has gone down. Our member states are advising us to be conservative and anticipate that maybe it would recover. I think that being conservative means to anticipate that in 2016 it will not recover, because European Central Bank makes no noise around any change in that direction. And we know that this has put pressure on you. And I just want to say we do our best to try to ease this pressure. What we have done, despite all the incredible tightness of budget, is to support, of course, Iran delegation after what you have done. That is a no-brainer. But also Somalia delegation, conditions there continue to be very difficult, but we have made a promise and we have to honor our word. We are going to have three things in the next more or less 2 years that are very relevant. You have to be aware of them. Midterm review of the MFF, this is next year. At midterm review is the time to try to put our money where our mouth is, to align resources with priorities. And I certainly hope that would reflect both in terms of what we do internally to connect to this set of policies. Federica is absolutely right. We don't look at the world outside and inside. It's one world. Secondly, the midterm review of the external action financial instruments. And I want to beg with you that you engage to help us, that it is not just a Brussels-based operation. You know best the arguments of what works, what doesn't, what needs to be fixed. And the third element would be the replacement of the Cotonou Agreement and the potential inclusion of the EDF in the budget. Again, you have the competence, you and your staff have the competence to help us do that best. In all this, on HR and on budget, we have two big drivers. Focus on results. What do we get from our people, from our money? And secondly, work together, bring down the boundaries, make sure that we work as one team. Finally, just a word on why I am now still every so often popping up on your radar screen. Ban Ki-moon asked me to co-chair the high-level panel on humanitarian finance. He asked me because of my background in humanitarian affairs, but also because of my knowledge of finance. My co-chair is the Sultan of Perak of Malaysia. He's an incredible man. We are a very interesting group of people. We were in Al-Bach these last 2 days, and I want to thank our Al-Bach secret weapon, Ambassador Thomas, well, he's Thomas, yes.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows Thomas for that. But I want to say, when I accepted, knowing that, I mean, obviously I consulted Federica, and we thought it would be a good service for the UN. But with the migration crisis, with the refugee crisis, it may actually be also a very good service to the EU, to lift up globally the necessity to raise more money and use money differently so we can help people affected, but also stabilize to the extent possible, use this to stabilize very, very vulnerable environments. With this, I want to thank each and every one of you, those who have been on the job for some time, those who are new. Obviously, you are the face, you are the brain, you are the heart of Europe in sometimes very difficult circumstances. And for this, we all are very, very grateful. Thank you.